Hi, Nayra.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well.
I'm going to post on social media. And I was inspired this morning because we're working in the Fort Worth office today together, which I love. There's no one else here, so it's really nice. It's
free office.
Very peaceful, and I love that. So anyhow, what did you ask me? I already forgot what you asked me. I know it had to do with affidavit of heirship.
Yes, so I was telling you that I am, drafting the affidavits of heirship, but didn't quite understand the whole process. So you draft them, but what are they for exactly?
Right. Okay, that's what it was. Like, what is the point of the work I'm doing? So for those of you who don't know yet, I can't stand it when people talk like they know like they're on this video, like we should know their life, right? So Nayra is she's now part of Cadillac Law. It's been, 2 months now?
Since April 5th. So,
yeah. It was fast. Wow. Okay. So she is a paralegal. She is a Spanish speaker, so she helps us con español.
Mm-hmm.
Look who's getting good. So good. And so the way we kind of separated and set up our workflow is that Jamisha is kind of doing what I would consider like higher level, more research, writing, that kind of stuff. And you're doing more of it's more plug-in type form work, that kind of thing. Affidavit of heirship absolutely falls into that form work. So I feel guilty because I feel like I should know to explain the purpose of your work before asking you to do your work. So I feel bad for not having done that.
But I mean, you hear it all the time, Affidavits of this, affidavits of that.
Right.
So
what is what?
You know that it needs to get done, but sometimes I feel like people don't quite understand like
what it is or what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So an affidavit of heirship, and this is only in Texas because I'm only licensed in Texas. I don't know other states. I don't even know if they have these things, if I'm honest. So in Texas, an affidavit of heirship is a document that it's going to outline information about the deceased person. So it's going to be like, this was Lauren Cadillac. She was born on 9/21/81, which is actually the best day ever, in case anyone was wondering. They made a whole song about it. Do you remember the 21st night of September? That's my song. Okay, so it's like Lauren was born, then she made mistakes and married these people, and then she divorced them. She made these 2 beautiful children that were not mistakes. Here's their info. Boom. 2 people signed that are disinterested witnesses. So I think that's an important.
Another question.
Yeah.
Who can be a disinterested witness?
Boom, gonna get to that. All right, so I tell people, Nayra, your son is 14. Mm-hmm. My son is 16.
Yes.
They don't care about us. It's not that they love us. They absolutely love us, but they don't care about the minutia of our lives, right? I tell people my son's best friends could be my disinterested witnesses. Like if I died now, even though these 16-year-olds, they don't care about me. They don't know the details. They don't know the minutia. They know I got 2 kids. Yeah. They know I had 2 husbands. They can sign the form. Okay. A disinterested witness cannot be related. Someone who would inherit, right? So my sisters would have the potential to inherit if God forbid, someone happened with my kids, whatever. So my sisters cannot be disinterested witnesses. My ex-husband cannot inherit through me. He could be a disinterested witness. And they only have to be familiar with the information in the affidavit. It's not like they have to have the birthday and the marriages and the kids' names memorized, right? Like they just have to be familiar.
So when you say that your ex-husband could be, so I ran into a case where it was a widow. So she cannot be, even though the husband's already deceased.
It would depend on who she's related to. Or who's related. So the reason my ex-husband could be a disinterested witness is because he can't inherit from me. When we got divorced, the law treated him as dead in my line of inheritance.
Okay.
So he absolutely cannot inherit from me. But guess what? He's familiar with my marriages. He's familiar with the kids I had, right? Like he knows all that crap. He's been around. My best friend could sign it. I mean, eventually when my best friend's kid is an adult, I would assume he could sign it on me because he knew my best friend, he knew me, whatever. Okay. Family, friends, neighbors, people from church.
And how long do they have to have known the deceased?
There's no time limit on the knowledge. They just have to be familiar with the details and not intimately familiar. So there's no like actual timeline, like, oh, I knew her better or whatever. No. Okay. That only matters in like 4th grade.
I knew them
maybe 6th, maybe 5th too.
They were my friend first.
Yeah, exactly. I knew him longer. I get to sign the affidavit. That's some stuff I would do actually that I realize. I would. I'm petty like that. Okay, so that, I mean, does that explain?
Yes.
And hopefully the audience gets a better understanding. Typically what we do then when we have the affidavit of heirship is we record it onto the real estate. So we go to the county recorder, record it on the real estate, and what that does is that vests ownership into the heirs. Okay. Now, it used to be a while back, the title companies would only insure after 5 years of having the affidavit recorded. So I would tell people, we can do an affidavit of heirship, but you're not going to be able to sell it for 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. That is not really the case anymore. The title companies, I guess, don't care anymore. I'm not really sure, but I don't do underwriting for them, so they don't care. So now you can do an affidavit of heirship and then turn around and sell it. In fact, I just got off the phone with the people who I let them know, like, we can do that and you can sell it. And then you have to split it with the other heirs. And affidavit of heirships are great because they avoid probate.
Okay.
So the people I talked to earlier, their mom had done a will, but like, she's giving it, splitting amongst her kids, which is what the law would do anyhow, right? And it is way cheaper to do an affidavit of heirship than it is a probate or a mini title. So we'll go with that. And the end result is the same, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, take the cheaper, easier route.
Yeah. So when would you recommend doing affidavits instead of probate, would you say?
Pretty much any time I can.
Okay. So it would be like the first choice if you could.
If we can. But some people said, like, if you have debt, you have to have probate. Like, if I die tomorrow, there has to be a probate.
It has to be.
I owe money here. I owe money there. You know, I got student loans. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. But when your mom, who's 90 and has been living on a fixed income for 40 years and had paid off her mortgage, 40 years before that, right? Like, then I don't need a probate. There's no creditors to go talk to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So at any time I'm in Dallas, I can avoid probate. I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like probate in Dallas if I don't have to.
Good.
So, what other questions do you have? I know, like, Nayra she's so curious. I absolutely love her.
I just want to learn,
That's why I love her. I love it when people want to learn. I love it.
You and Jamisha have a lot of knowledge, so I'm trying to.
Jamisha is also a wealth of knowledge. She knows other areas of the law that I don't know. Like, she knows a lot about criminal law. Mm-hmm. I only really know about criminal procedure. I don't really know, like, how it actually works. I was afraid to do criminal law because I'm a single mom.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want people to, I don't want to be offended. Like, we're innocent until proven guilty, right? But, like, what I've heard from other criminal lawyers is that most people are guilty. I'm like, I don't think I need that in my life, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And I love the idea of, like, protecting the Constitution and holding the police accountable and all that. But I do not love the idea of, what is that? There's a movie. Oh, what is it called? Where the dude was like a criminal defense attorney and the guy comes back, he gets out of jail and, like, murders the family. I don't need that in my life.
In the movies, it happens.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I don't know if it happens in real life. I don't know if I risk it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to risk it.
I'm good over here with estate planning.
Yeah, I like the real estate because it's not on the deed. It didn't happen. Right? Like, it didn't get recorded. Sorry, no tears.
Can't do it.
No feelings. I love that. Okay, so that's affidavit of heirships. What else do you want to learn about?
Let's see. sometimes the difference between a trust and a will.
This is a good one.
You know.
Okay, so a trust is an agreement a settler makes for a beneficiary. Okay, so usually, like, you are the settler and you are the beneficiary, but it's an agreement. It's really a type of agreement about how money is going to be handled, right?
Mm-hmm.
A will is a document that says, after I die, here's how I want my stuff separated. And you can put, here's how I want my stuff separated into a trust, but it also doesn't have to have that. A will is only used after you're dead. And you have to do some sort of legal something like a probate, a monument of title, something along those lines when there's a will. When there's a trust, because it's this agreement that's created and there's like this trustee and so on and so forth, there's no need for probate. The trustee just does what the trust says.
Okay.
So you and I hope not, I don't want to get too personal on the YouTube, but
it's fine.
We both have children from our first marriage,
mm-hmm.
and then we have children from our second marriage. You are still in your second marriage, and I am not. So your husband also has children from first marriage.
Mm-hmm.
The way the law is written, so in your case, your husband is older than you, so he should, statistically speaking, he should die before you, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So if there's a will, he says, I give everything to Nayra when I die,
mm-hmm.
right? Because that's standard. He wants to make sure you're still living, living comfortably, blah, 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 right? You made a life together. The issue then becomes you, Nayra, can take all that stuff because you own it now. And now you can go meet Sancho, the pool boy.
We don't have a pool. So.
You can buy a pool with your dead husband's money. Yeah, exactly. Your wealth. So you buy a pool and you acquire a pool boy. And then you're like, I want to give all my stuff to him when I die. And you can.
Yeah.
And there's nothing your husband's kids can do about that. And so now his kids get nada.
Mm.
Right. The trust stops that. So when I have blended families, I'll always put blended families in a trust.
Okay.
Because the law and a will, they don't provide for blended families like ours. They only provide for like the one husband, one wife, all the kids together. Like the leave it to be their family.
It's like the traditional.
Yeah, the thing that's not even a real thing
anymore.
Yeah. Okay, when I got this job, when I got hired, I'm like, oh, law firm.
When I gave myself an interview.
Gee, Lauren, you're really great. Thank you. I agree. When I started doing this, I realized very quickly that traditional marriages have always been the exception and blended families have always been the rule. It's just that people didn't talk about it as much or as freely or openly as 50 years ago as they do today. That's the only difference, because that issue's been going on forever. Okay, almost every family is blended. So the law is not written for the norm. The law is written for, what was the norm in 1738 or 1836 when Texas became a state, right?
Mm-hmm.
A trust then allows, so in your situation, your husband, let's say, statistically speaking, he will die before you. He passes away. We put language in the trust that makes it irrevocable.
Oh, okay.
That way, on the day he dies, he knows it's everything that was in the trust, everything he helped acquire, right? Because he was alive, stays in the trust. You can move it around. Mm-hmm. Let's say y'all owned an apartment building or something, right? And the market changed, whatever. You want to sell the apartment building, or you needed nursing care. Now you're 90, you got to go to a nursing home. So you got to sell the apartment building to pay for the nursing home. You're absolutely allowed to do that. You're the beneficiary, right? Mm-hmm. You can use your stuff that you acquired with your husband. What you can't do is leave that stuff to Sancho.
Oh, okay.
You can't take it out of the trust and then give it to your kids or make Sancho the beneficiary. None of that. It is stuck. So the reason I like that is because you know that the stuff you worked for is going to your spouse as a benefit and then your kids as a remainder.
Oh, that That makes sense.
Yes. Now, a will does not do that. Like I said, when you inherit through the will, it's yours. You can go to Sancho. You can give it to whoever you
turn
want.
around and just
Yes.
like say in this case, his kids, right?
Yep.
They're they're still under our care. So something happens to him, I can like literally just inherit my own kids and leave them out. If
you had a will, essentially that's what you could do.
Those are the chances that people take when they don't do.
When you don't have estate planning, yes. So I mean, we have people call the office. So I do the consultation, so Nayra doesn't get to hear all the crazy ish that I hear. When I have people call, first of all, people are calling like, my grandma's still alive, but I want to make sure I secure this house.
Yeah.
So it's your grandma's house, and you want to secure it. That's adorable. Don't call me about that. Don't you dare. It's not yours. But then there's and it's not just wives, it's husbands too. But
it could be.
They passed away. It should all be mine. Well, you knew they had a kid. Like when you married that person, you were aware there were children, weren't you? And so did you think like the kids would just be left out?
And that's another thing that at my previous job, we used to do wills, right? So the husbands, there was a case that the husband, they each had kids from prior marriages. They did not have kids together, but he treated her daughter as his own, but she did not want to name his kids as her own.
Of course.
So of course we couldn't tell.
Always like
that. Yeah. And so he's like, why am I, he's like, well, hold on. If I die, can she like literally take my kids off? And I was like, well, yes.
Yeah.
It'll be hers.
Yeah. It's hers.
You're giving, unless you make it.
Yeah.
Where,
I also have people, like, I want to give my daughter this house so long as she blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a will. If you're attaching so long as, if you are trying to control people from the grave, you have to have a trust. You can control people perpetually through a trust. Okay. Here's my favorite trust story. I don't think you've heard this one. A lot of my viewers have, have viewers, like a lot of my viewers, my fans, because it's my favorite story. Okay, so when I was 1920, I worked not in the year 1920, when I was 19 or 20 years old. I worked in a hair salon inside, I worked in a jewelry booth that was inside a hair salon. So we sold purses and stuff, like the size of this setup
right here. And
it was like purses and jewelry, and we were in a hair salon. Okay. I really liked the job, and my hair looked great because all my friends were hairdressers. I mean, I was banging. It was great. So one of the hairdresser friends I had was a man who was a hairdresser, not a barber, a hairdresser. Okay. His grandma had been really wealthy. And so when she died, she left trusts for all the grandkids. There were trusts. And his required him to be married before he could get the trust money. Because he works at the hair salon, right? So grandma knew what was up. Grandma knew. What grandma did not anticipate was the Supreme Court saying that everybody can get married. When they put down that ruling, Nayra, I swear to you, the first thing I thought about was grandma. I was like, oh, grandma's rolling over her grave. She was rolling over in her grave.
I guess she couldn't control everything.
She could not control everything. You're exactly right. But that is the point of the trust, right? Mm-hmm. It's like not just, there's multiple points, right? Because a lot of people will use them to control from the grave. And that's what grandma did. A lot of people will use them to protect when they have a blended family. That's what I do. That's what I have for myself. That's what I put my clients in. If you're a blended family, that's what your family will go in.
Yes.
Most places you don't need to avoid probate. Like probate is not as terrible as it is in Dallas County, Texas. Okay. It's really not that bad. Like in Michigan, it's not that way here. So if you are here and you anticipate that you might could maybe die here at all, then you probably want to trust.
A trust.
Yeah. It boils down to that.
So will you say you need a trust and a will? Or if you have a trust?
I think so. Usually that depends on the age of who I'm talking to.
Okay.
So like for you and me, yes.
Okay.
Reason being, there's a chance that you and I could go, buy an apartment building. I'm really into buying apartment buildings.
Want to buy
it's
an
like
apartment
really my thing. Okay. And I say that, and I only really want a few units, like 6 units. It's not like I don't want to own yeah, exactly. But okay, whatever. So you buy a multi-unit building, let's say. And you go and you close on it, and then you're like driving home and something happens. God forbid, but something happens, right?
Yeah.
That's not in the trust. Because the trust didn't have credit. You had to buy it in your own name with your credit. So the deed was into your name. Now you've passed away. Right. So the reason I say it depends on age is because, like our example with our 90-year-old grandma, she's not out buying multifamily units and crap like that. She's not acquiring, her husband's not buying her diamond earrings or what,
Yeah.
Right. You and I, we're young. We're going to be selling real estate, buying real estate, making investments, selling investments, getting gifts of diamonds.
Yep.
In case their husbands or partners are watching.
Yeah.
That is super easy thing to happen in our life. Those kind of risks could occur. So in the case when you have a trust and then you do a will, it's called a pour over will.
Oh, okay.
Anything that's not in the trust pours over to the will. And then you just make the trust the beneficiary of the will. Exactly. So then it all just bounces back. Yes, you have to have the government involved, blah, blah, blah. But it bounces back.
You're covered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything's covered. So you.
Yes.
And your kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now having it in a trust does not necessarily protect you from creditors. So remember, I said probate you need when you have debt, right?
Yes.
So you have creditors. So I have trust, and if I died, like literally right now, I would still have creditors.
So
luckily, my biggest student loan, my only student loan is government, and I'm told that when you die, you just send your death certificate to them and the loan goes away. It's forgiven.
Whoa.
I know. But, okay, so if I die, there's the debt, right?
Yes.
So my Visa card or whatever is still going to want their money.
They're going to want it, yeah.
They're going to go to my trustee, and my trustee is going to have to do what the trust says. But just because we're not doing probate doesn't mean that we're not going to be paying those
Taking
debts.
care of those debts.
Now, I will say this. If I owed, and I don't, I'm just pulling a number out, right? Let's say I died and I had like $3,000 of Visa debt, and that was like my only debt. My trustee can negotiate that with Visa, right? And be like, hey, we got 2 kids here. They don't have a mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard for you to get this. If you don't settle with me, take $1,000 or, whatever. And usually the creditors, especially large companies, Visa, Citibank, they're smart. They understand the time value of money. They'd rather take $1,000 now than never get the $3,000. Right. Or spend $6,000 to try. They're not going to do that.
$1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just because you have a trust, you create a trust, just because you own things in trust does not mean they are dead and bulletproof. But they do kind of create an additional layer of protection.
All right. Sounds good.
I know, right?
That answered that question.
You definitely need to draft yourself a trust.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And then a pour over will.
We'll have to do that.
Yes, you do. Yeah. I have all my staff do that always because I'm like, you can't work for me and then something happens and you don't have that. Like, how bad does that make me look? Right? Like I told my partner that too. I'm like,
don't you love
you can't be with me?
Like the mechanics that their cars
are working. That's exactly. I'm not having that. Not on my watch. I have a reputation. I have a reputation to uphold here, people.
Oh goodness. I know. It's like, what did she do for she worked for
Yeah. Oh, we have this messy ass probate. This is your employee, Attorney Cadillac. Is that right? No, Your Honor. My employees have their paperwork done. Damn it! I don't want that. No. But it's always, like estate planning attorneys who don't have their estate plan or whatever it is. You never have your own, right? Yeah. So you can definitely work on that.
need to,
You need
yes.
to work on that this week.
I need to get it done.
For sure. Well, I think this has been awesome.
Yes. Thank you for the
Such a good
knowledge.
chat. I feel like
Yes.
we should do all our training sessions like this.
Like this. That'd be
We should
good.
do this all the
Because
time.
if I have the question, it's more than likely.
Oh,
that,
exactly, exactly. And so we'll put it out here. We'll go live, see if anyone joins us, and hang out. Thanks everyone for joining us. None of this, by the way, created an attorney-client relationship between you and my firm, or even me and Nayra. And this is all just general info I'm sharing with you because knowledge is power.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.